So following on from managing the sales timeline, tactic 6, getting everything in writing. Mark B, what are your thoughts on this?
This is a must. This is an absolute must for your negotiation with Oracle. I mean, of course it is with any vendor, or even anything you're buying. You know, you should always get stuff that's important to you in writing, ideally in the contract. Obviously, during a sales campaign from Oracle, they're talking. The sales guys are talking to you. The technical guys are talking to you. The management's talking to your management. Everybody's talking to everybody, and there's all this stuff going on. And there's things get said and promised and alluded to, and assumptions get made, and so a bad negotiation ends with a standard Oracle contract with a lot of assumptions floating around in your organization about what you think you bought or signed up for, or how long, or whatever. And then guess what? Within a year, you're non-compliant, you're using stuff you shouldn't do, or you're not using stuff you bought, or you bought stuff you don't need. So the whole negotiation process should be in written form. So you might have a verbal meeting on the phone, or a Skype meeting, or a Zoom meeting, whatever it is, with Oracle, and you say, put that in writing, put that commitment in writing, put that item in writing, or here's a negotiation point, can you respond in writing? So you get a complete audit trail of your negotiation in writing. The key is put into the contract, so that's kind of locked in a legal sense, but also you've got a written audit trail of that negotiation, so that in the future, if the audit team rolls in from Oracle and says, oh, you thought this, but it's actually that, and you owe us $1 million, you can say, hang on, we got something from Oracle that says, no, it's this, it's that, whatever it is. So you've got an audit trail, you've got protection. Now that's the first thing, to get everything in writing. And like anything, most sales guys fluff stuff up a bit. I mean, that's their job, isn't it? To spin things up, to make them super shiny and sound super great, and new toys and all that sort of thing. Well, part of that embellishment, let's call it that, can lead you to interpret certain things in a product that maybe don't exist. So in the contract, obviously, if you've got products, you want product features and functionality in the contract, so you know exactly what you're buying, and you're not sold on the dream rather than the reality. And audit trail all of that, so make sure it's all put in writing. And including, I mentioned earlier about contracts and URL links, and print that out on the day of signing. I mean, that lawyer on that webinar I saw a while ago, great recommendation, and you should definitely do that. URL links support no end of people now, and people have been audited, and they said, no, the URL link says this now, and therefore you're non-compliant, therefore you owe us money. And suddenly, instead of you going, oh no, stop there, let's look at the link as it was when we first signed. You haven't got copies of that. So now you're into discussion with the sales guys and the audit team about, another $1 million non-compliance. So everything in writing is essential, especially with someone like Oracle. Especially, it's a complex organization full of a lot of people who you meet a lot of the time. They got a lot of products. They license them in a million different ways, and they keep changing the way they license it and bundle it, and product names and all that sort of stuff. Get everything in writing, lock it down. You've got a good contract then, you've got an audit trail of the negotiation. So next time around, when you or someone else renews that contract, they can look back, follow the audit trail of negotiation you've done, and follow the pattern of negotiation as well, so they can learn from that, even if you're not around to do that. But if it's not in writing, as my bullet point says here, if it's not in writing, don't believe it. Anybody can say anything in a verbal environment, or down the pub with you, or don't worry about it, we'll sort that implementation out, or don't worry about that audit problem, we'll sort that. Unless it's in writing, just if it's not in writing, worry about it. That's what I say. And by the way, just to finish this point before I hand to Mark, I always say, if you get a salesperson, Oracle or whoever, who says something to you that just sounds too good to be true, or slightly outrageous, what could that? For example, this is the best deal we've ever done for a company in your industry. You've got to keep your lid on this. This is super special. Rest assured, we've done everything we possibly can for you here. If a rep says that to you, ask them to put that in writing, or get their manager to put that in writing to confirm that this deal is indeed the very best deal, price-wise, discount, whatever metrics you want to put in there, that they've ever done in your industry. And you'll be surprised that they don't. Guess why? You got any comments on this particular thing?
Yes, thanks, Mark. I mean, when I first, way back when, maybe 15 years ago, I realized that sales reps didn't put things in writing. I thought, well, maybe it's just that sales rep. But then over the years, working with them on multiple deals where, you know, they'd be selling the licenses, we'd be doing implementations. No, they all do it. So, you know, they must be taught to do this. They must be. So, you know, Mark's point about getting everything in writing, they will put very little in writing, very, very little. They might send you a short email, but they will be on the phone to you all the time. But, you know, if you can just make sure you go back through that audit trail, just look at what they put in writing, because that's all that counts. All those phone calls don't count. And you'll find that you get very, very little. And what you get is that, you know, I mentioned earlier, you'll get a proposal, which wasn't quite the proposal you wanted, but that's in writing. And then when they fall back on it, in that contract says anything we talked about, anything else is superseded once you sign the contract. So, you know, also understand all of your contracts. You know, there's a master services agreement, and then there's contracts, and there's invoices, and it's all a very complicated thing. So make sure you understand it. But the everything in writing thing, understand that rep probably can't do it. So it is an acid test. It makes them go back and say, well, look, you know, they're demanding in writing. What can we put in writing? If you get stuff in writing, but make sure you analyze what that says as well, because, you know, should and would and could and all those things in there. These people are masters of negotiation. So when you're in, and if you think about it, what they actually do is some of these guys might only do 2 or 3 deals a year, might maybe even do 1 deal, and that's your deal. And what they'll do is they'll spend all their time thinking about it. How am I going to get the customer to do this? What should I tell them this week? I'll put that contract in a drawer for a week. So all of that stuff, they are spending their whole life just trying to close this deal. So be very, very careful about how you conduct yourself and get everything in writing. If they won't put it in writing and you insist on it, you know, maybe they'll do things like say, well, I'll get my manager to call you. But no, I want it in writing. If you're going to say that we should get this deal, put that we should get this deal in March and give me a date. But you'll find that they won't do that. But the whole thing is really about understanding how they're likely to treat you. And I think if you start off in the process thinking that understanding this guy, all that they're going to spend their whole time doing is trying to get your money by a certain date, then it kind of puts you in a position to say, well, actually, I've got to put some more time and effort into this thing. I've got to really be in control of it all. And I'm going back to some of the earlier points. If you push for something by a certain date, push for it in writing. If it doesn't occur in writing, then it didn't occur. So, you know, you've got to be really strong through this process and understand that, you know, it's a battle between 2 worthy adversaries, and the guy on the other side of the fence, or the girl on the other side of the fence, is spending a lot of effort and a lot of their intellectual time thinking about this and thinking about how they're going to get you to do what they want you to do. So Mark's point about getting everything in writing, I think once you use that and you see how little they put in writing, you'll really see what we mean.
You know, just to finish off the point, Mark, it's just, I know one company, big company, global company, who only negotiate via email. They don't have calls, they don't meet the vendors face to face, they don't chat down the pub, they don't play on the golf course and do hospitality. They treat every negotiation, they do it via email. So they send a list of wants to the vendor for the renewal, they put a proposal back to them, they critique it, send a bunch of questions and challenges back, and it just goes around this loop of email trail backwards and forwards. So everything's in writing. It's very odd when you see it happening for the first time, because there is no verbal communication occurs. If the rep tries to call them, they don't take the call. If the rep turns up in the lobby, and they've had this, sales rep turns up in the lobby, you know, they just say, can't see you. We've asked you some questions via email, respond via email. It is actually a very strong way of negotiating. It controls the process unbelievably, and of course, everything in writing. So.
And just to finish off on that point, I think if you, from a sales perspective, you understand that if you run a professional sales program for a new system, then you're going to issue, I don't know, an IT invitation to tender, a request for information, all sorts of other documents. You're going to get everything in writing from anybody that wants to respond. What you need to remember in this situation is there's only one person that you're negotiating with. They don't have to respond to everything in writing because they're not competitive. So, you know, when you get a professional procurement person running that show opposite the Oracle sales rep, then you've got 2 kind of titans battling each other out. So that's the kind of people that you need to get involved in, is to make sure that everything, you know, they're put under pressure. And a professional procurement department or a category lead will greatly help you in that. So they will make sure that you conduct that process and you get as much as you possibly can from it.